Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 2 of our Pilates class. Hopefully you've enjoyed our last session, and the recording from last week has been uploaded to YouTube on the Parkinson Society BC YouTube channel. So if you wanted to revisit that session, or if you missed the session, you're welcome to have a look on the YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be building on some of the exercises we did last week. And it will be pretty familiar in terms of the class structure, in the sense that we will start in a seated position and then move to a lying position and then come back up to a seated position at the end of the class. So hopefully you've got something to sit and lie on. I've got a little platform here behind me, so don't feel like you have to sit or lie on the floor. You're welcome to do this on a couch or on a bed, whatever works for you. And I will talk you through the class, so just follow along to the best of your abilities. So this class will be recorded as well, and hopefully it will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel shortly, hopefully in the next week. And that's all for me. So let's get started. I just want to make sure that you can all hear me okay. Okay, so if you have any problems during the class today, you are welcome to open the chat box, and you can type in your questions on the chat box, although I won't be able to answer right away because I will be moving with you, but I will come up to the screen at the end of the class and I can answer some of those questions, or you're welcome to raise your hand. There should be a little button at the bottom of your screen. And that way I can unmute your microphone if you prefer not to type for any of your questions. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so we're sitting on our platform or whatever chosen platform or chair or floor that you've got there. We're gonna place our feet flat onto the floor. Make sure you're sitting at the front of your seat, so don't let yourself sit back here. Shuffle yourself forwards here, right on the edge of your seat here. We're gonna drop our arms to the side, just let them be nice and relaxed, sitting up as tall as you can. From here, we're going to grow a little taller, think crown of the head towards the ceiling. And then we're going to lean over to the side, think shoulder down to the hip. And then we're going to roll our head forward. And we're coming back up into a seated position. So the movement should be quite fluid. Same thing again, crown of the head up towards the ceiling, think up and over to the side. And then we're gonna take this roll even further forward. And then we're rolling back up to the spine, one vertebrae at a time. So this movement is from your upper spine. You're thinking rib cage and up. We're not bending at the hips. So this movement is quite high up in our spine column. Let's try that again. Reach the head up towards the ceiling. Think up and over to the side. Think shoulder down to the hip. And then we roll forward, head down. And we're going to roll back up into a seated position. Same to the other side. Grow taller in your seat. Up and over. Let the arms hang. And then we carry that forward and rolling back up to center. A few more times. Growing taller. Up and over. Rolling forward. Remember, it's the upper spine. And coming back up. One more to the other side. Growing taller, shoulders away from the ears. Rolling forward. And coming back up. Going to place one hand onto your seat. We're going to reach the arm up and overhead. Slide ourselves over into a side stretch. Keeping your chest open. And then we're going to come back up. It's almost like you got a little slider underneath your hand. And we're going to slide the hand away from us. But we want to keep both of our sitting bones onto the chair. And again, reach up and over, grow tall, shoulders away from the ears, sliding the bottom arm away, keep the chest open, and coming back up. Same to the other side, up and over, light weight onto the hand, sliding to the side, keeping your sit bones down on the bed and coming back up. We're going to fold the arms in front of us like so. Imagine your shoulders, your chest, and your arms as one unit. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to twist, leading the movement with your breastbone. Keep the spine nice and tall and coming back in. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to twist. You're imagining your spine here like a corkscrew. We don't want to be leaning to the side. We want to be twisting on the spot here. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to twist. Nice and tall. Think about your breastbone leading this movement here. Spine like a corkscrew. Inhale to prepare. And exhale to twist. 2 more. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to twist, almost growing taller in your twist here. And again, inhale to prepare. Exhale to twist. Coming back into the middle. And we're going to drop the forearms. Keep the elbows tucked into the side, palms facing up, shoulders away from the ears. We're going into our Cleopatra. And our dumbwaiter here, bring the arms out to the side as if you're presenting something. Face the palms down and reach the fingers away. Lengthen your arms. Pull back in, leading with your elbows. And bring the hands back in front of you. Shoulders away from the ears. Try again. Out to the side. Flip the palm. Reach the fingertips out. And pulling back in with the elbow. Sitting up nice and tall, shoulders away from the ears, isolating the movement to only your arms. Try not to let your back or shoulders or head move. The movement coming solely from the arms and coming back in. Check in with yourself. How's your sitting posture? Are we sitting nice and tall over our sit bones? Hopefully we're not slouching back. You want to think about the crown of the head to the ceiling here. Long necks. On the next one, we're going to rise up onto our toes as we lengthen the arms out and lower the heels down as we pull the arms back in. Rise up onto the toes as we reach the arms out, palms down, and lower the heels as we pull the elbows in. And again, reach the arms out as we rise up on the toes, and then lower as we pull the arms back in. Check in with your sitting posture here. Are we still nice and tall over our sit bones, or are we starting to slouch? Crown of the head to the ceiling, ribs in. Let's do 2 more here. Really think wide open chest in this movement. Open up those shoulders. 1 more. Rise up onto our toes, pulling back, and lower the arms down. We're going to rise up onto the heel on one side and lower. Same to the other side, rising up onto the heel and lower. As we're doing this position, this movement, you're going to try to keep your body as still as possible, except for the ankle and the foot. Try not to let yourself do this as we lift up the heels. You want to keep both sitting bones down onto the bed. Nicely done. Chest wide open, shoulders away from the ears. We're now going to alternate. As we reach one heel down, we're going to reach the opposite heel up at the same time, almost like you're pedaling your feet here. Nice and tall. Try to isolate the movement to just the ankle and the foot. Try not to get your upper body involved. Let's go for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, nice and tall, 4, 3, 2, 1,
and lower. Drop the arms down, thumbs facing up. We're going to reach the arms forward and open them up in a wide V, opening the chest, squeezing the shoulder blades back. And then we bring the arms back in, thumbs facing up and lower, nice and tall through the spine. Raise the arms, open up into a wide V, close and lower. Keep the chest open as we're doing this. Squeeze the shoulder blades back as you open. And lower, shoulders away from the ears if you can. Open to a wide V. Arms back in and down. One more. Thumbs up. Open. In and lower back down. From here, you're going to place one hand onto the bed and you're going to gently slide yourself down into a lying position. Get your feet up onto the bed and take a moment here to get yourself into a lying position. Arms down by your side. When you're in this position, I want you to bend both of your knees such that your feet are flat onto the floor. Keep your legs together to start. We're going to open up the toes out to the side, then open the heels such that we've got parallel position with our legs here. Now we're going to review the 5 rest Pilates position today that we went over last time. And we're going to start with the pelvis. So we're going to make a diamond shape with our hand here. So the thumbs are together and the fingers are together into a diamond shape. You're going to take the thumb portion of the diamond into your belly button, and then the rest of the hand comes down. So if I turn sideways for a second, my belly button is where my thumb is, and the rest of the hand is resting down onto the pelvis. So you've got a diamond shape here, and I want you to imagine you've got a steel marble sitting in the middle of the diamond, and you're going to use your pelvic movement to roll that marble to the very top of the diamond, and then roll it to the very bottom of the diamond. Again, roll to the top of the diamond, roll to the bottom of the diamond. Again, roll to the top of the diamond, roll to the bottom. Keep going. I'm just going to move my arm for a second so that way you can see the position here of my pelvis. We're rolling to the top of the diamond, rolling to the bottom of the diamond. So I'm using my pelvic movement here to do this kind of tipping motion. Now with every movement, you're just going to make the tipping smaller and smaller and smaller until you find a neutral position where you're halfway between going as far as you can one way and halfway between going as far as you can the other way. We're going to maintain this neutral pelvis position throughout our class today. You can remove your hands and place them down beside you. Next, I want you to think about your pelvic floor, gently pulling up as if you're sitting on a cold block of ice and you went maintaining that neutral pelvis position as you're pulling up through the pelvic floor. You're going to melt the ribs down into the bed or into the floor, wherever you're laying down on. Melt the ribs down into the earth and maintaining your pelvic position at all times. Next, we're going to feel the weight of our shoulder blades onto the bed, and we're going to slide them away from the ears while keeping them weighted and heavy into the bed. And the last item on our list, we're going to think about our head and neck position. You're going to lengthen the back of your neck, almost as if you're holding a little peach underneath your chin. So these 5 positions, your neutral pelvis, your pelvic floor, your ribs, your shoulder blades, and your head, make up our 5 Pilates position, which we're going to try to maintain. We're going to float the arms up towards the ceiling while holding on to your 5 rest positions. And we're going to circle the arms as we slide one leg out and bring it back in. Same to the other side, doing this nice and slow at first. We want to make sure we've got good control here in our trunk. You want to try to maintain your neutral pelvis. Don't let yourself arch like this. You want to complete your 5 Pilates rest positions while doing this exercise, keeping your pelvis neutral. Try not to let the opposite knee wobble. Imagine you got a spirit level sitting on top of your pelvis, and the little bubble should be in the middle. Now, you'll probably notice that one of my arms is bending. That's because I'm a little too close to the wall here, but hopefully at home, you've got enough room to be circling both of your arms fully. Check in with yourself. Are we lifting our ribs off the ground, or are we still melting our ribs down into the bed? What about the back of the neck? Are we still lengthening through the neck? Are we still holding that imaginary peach underneath the chin? Are we still pulling up through the pelvic floor? And where's our neutral pelvis? If you'd like to add the breath, I would like you to inhale to prepare. Exhale to slide away. Inhale to pull up. And exhale to rest. And again, inhale to prepare. Exhale to move the arms and legs away. Inhale to bring back to the middle. And exhale for a moment of rest. If it's too confusing adding in the breathing, you're welcome to forego that, and you can just breathe at a rate that's comfortable for you. The most important thing here is maintaining that trunk stability, the stability in your upper body, so that we're not moving side to side as we're doing this movement. Make sure our back is not arching off the bed. You want to keep that neutral spine, keep the shoulder blades pressing down into the bed and sliding towards our heels, back of the neck nice and long. Neutral pelvis, pulling up through the pelvic floor. One more. And pulling back in. And then we're going to lower our arms for a second. We're going to go into our scissors, level 1, that we practiced last week. We're going to maintain our 5 Pilates rest position, and we're going to float one leg up to tabletop, and then we're going to lower that leg down. Now, as we do the scissors level 1 movement, we want to make sure that we're maintaining our 5 Pilates rest position, and we're not going to all of a sudden arch our back like so when I lift the leg off the bed. I want to maintain my neutral pelvis. If you've lost it, go back to your pelvic tilting and try to find that again. But you're maintaining that neutral pelvis position, and you're making sure the ribs are melted down into the ground, the shoulders away from the ears, and long neck, little peach under the chin. And as you're doing this, you want to be as stable as you can. Try not to let yourself twist as the leg comes up. This might be a little hard to feel whether you're twisting or not if you're lying on a really soft surface. But regardless of what surface you're lying down on, I want you to imagine you've got a little spirit level sitting on top of your pelvis, and you're going to try your very best to keep the little bubble in the middle. We're going to progress this a little bit. We're going to float the arms up to the ceiling. And now we're going to go into a single tabletop and lower. So your arms are reaching up to the ceiling. We're no longer using our arms for stability. And you're going to maintain that neutral pelvis. Don't let your back arch off the ground like so. You want to keep that neutral pelvis. Still pulling up through the pelvic floor. Try not to let the opposite knee wobble. So the foot that's not lifting off the ground, don't let that wobble. Imagine you got a glass of water sitting on top of that knee, and you're trying to keep it from spilling. Check in with your posture. Are your ribs still flattening down and melting down into the floor, or are we starting to lift them up? Shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck. On your next one, you're going to reach the leg away on a diagonal, almost like you're pressing a button on the wall while reaching the opposite arm away. Then pull both back into that scissors position, and then lower the leg down. So once again, You float your leg up to tabletop, reach away on a diagonal with that leg and the opposite arm, and then we bring it back to the middle and lower back down. And as we're doing this, it's getting progressively harder because we've got less of a base of support here. And as we're doing this opposition reach of the arms and legs, you want to make sure we're not arching our back off the ground and we're not having our shoulders rise up to the ears and we're not scrunching through our neck. You want to maintain your stability in your trunk here. Now, these movements are relatively slow, so that way you can really judge how much control you've got here and really try your best to maintain your 5 Pilates rest positions. So it's not about how many you're doing or how quickly you're doing this, but it's how well you can do this with control. Check in with yourself continuously, making sure your pelvis is still in neutral position. We're not arching our back. Our ribs are melted down into the ground, still pulling up through the pelvic floor as if we're sitting on a cold block of ice. Shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck. Nicely done. Make sure you're breathing. Don't hold your breath. Let's do 2 more here. One more. Try to maintain the stability in your trunk. Don't twist. And then we're going to lower the arms back down. You can relax for a second. We're going to go back to our 5 rest position again before our next exercise. So think about that little diamond shape that we made at the beginning of the class, sticking your thumbs into the belly button and then letting the rest of your hand fall onto the pelvis like so. And we're going to do our pelvic tilting here as if you got a little marble in the middle of that diamond you created with your hand. And you're going to use your pelvis to roll that diamond, or sorry, that marble to the top of the diamond and then to the bottom of the diamond. And then we're going to make that rock smaller and smaller and smaller until you find a neutral spot where you're halfway between going as far as you can one way and halfway between going as far as you can the other way. Lower the arms down by your side. We're going to maintain this neutral pelvis as we pull up through the pelvic floor and melt the ribs down into the bed. Shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck. Imagine holding a little peach under the chin. From here, you're going to place one hand behind your head and the other arm, you're going to float off the bed just slightly. And we're going to inhale to prepare. Exhale, we're going to lift our shoulders up, thinking opposite shoulder to hip, or shoulder to opposite hip rather, and lower back down. Try to maintain that long back of the neck, thinking about that little peach you're holding under your chin the whole time. So what we don't want to see during this oblique prep exercise is your chin sticking out like this. We don't want it to stick out, you want it to come back in. So think about that little peach underneath your chin that you're holding here. And we're not pulling the elbow to the knee, but you're thinking the shoulder to the hip, the shoulder to the hip. If you'd like to add in your breath here, you can inhale to prepare and exhale. To lift, inhale to hold, exhale to lower. You're welcome to do this at a speed that works for you, but I don't want to see you pulling with the arm. I don't want to see anyone crunching their neck towards the opposite knee. I want you to think about the shoulder going to the hip, that opposition in the trunk here. Try to maintain your neutral pelvis if you can. Ideally, we don't want to be arching the back or really collapsing through the back either. Want to be maintaining that neutral position. Trying to engage the pelvic floor as if you're sitting on a cold block of ice. Make sure the shoulders are away from the ears. Little peach under the chin. Nicely done. Remember, inhale to prepare. Exhale to lift. Inhale to hold. And exhale to lower. Let's do 3 more on the side. Wherever you are, we're going to do 3 more in your own time. Thinking about holding that little peach under your chin so you don't feel a strain in your neck. Shoulders away from the ears. And then lower and rest for a second. You can shake the head out as if you're saying no to somebody. If you like to rest your neck, if you feel any strain. We're going to do the same thing onto the opposite side. We're going to find our neutral pelvis again with that rocking motion we did at the beginning. And then we're going to pull up through our pelvic floor once we find our neutral pelvis. Melt the ribs down into the bed, shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck, as if you're holding a little peach under the chin. You're going to bring your arm up behind your head. And then we're going to take our opposite hand and we're going to reach to the opposite side here. And you're thinking about the shoulder going towards the opposite hip. So remember, we're not doing this. We're not using our elbow to pull ourselves up. We're thinking of holding that peach under the chin as we bring the shoulder to the opposite hip and lower back down. Trying to maintain your neutral pelvis here if you can. Try not to arch or collapse. See if you can hold on to your pelvic floor here. Melt the ribs down into the bed, shoulders away from the ears, leading the movement with that breastbone, thinking shoulder to opposite hip. Breathing, try not to move those legs, keep them still if you can. Imagine you've got little cups of water sitting on those kneecaps. If you would like to add the breath, you're welcome to join me here. Inhale to prepare. Exhale to lift. Inhale to hold. And exhale to lower. Now, if the breath is too confusing, you can ignore that completely. You can just do the movement and breathe at a pace that works for you. But if you would like to add in that breathing pattern, you're welcome to join me here. So remember, we're not pulling up with the elbow. We don't want to be yanking our head up. We don't want to strain our neck. Lead that movement with the breastbone, thinking shoulder to opposite hip. Imagine that little peach under the chin. Keep those knees still if you can. Little cups of water, balancing on the caps. Let's do 3 more here in your own time. Remember to check in with your posture. Maintain that stability in the trunk. Shoulders away from the ears. Little peach under the chin. And when you're done, you can lower the arms. And we're going to roll onto our side. So take your time here. You can choose which side you want to roll onto. You're, of course, welcome to use pillows to make yourself more comfortable. Now, when we're on our side, we're going to have our knees bent. Both of our knees are bent. And you're going to make sure we're in the right alignment. So your feet should be in line with the hip, in line with the shoulder. So your legs should not be too far forward or too far back. You want them to be in a position where the feet are in line with the hip, in line with the shoulder. The arm that's underneath, you can either have it straight like mine and have a pillow underneath your head, or you're welcome to tuck it underneath if that's more comfortable for your shoulder. The other arm, you're just having your fingertips touch down on the bed. We're not gripping for balance, just touching the fingertips down as if you got some eggshells under there. We're going to go into our clams exercise. So we're going to start by pulling our top hip down towards the feet, such that you're creating a little gap under your spine. Let me show you that again. Top hip pulling down towards the hip. Did you see that? Or sorry, top hip down towards the foot, like this. Top hip down towards the floor, such that you're creating a little gap underneath your spine. And then you're going to imagine you got headlights at the front of the hips. And right now they're pointing sideways, but I want you to tip forward slightly so they're pointing down at the floor while maintaining that gap underneath your spine. Shoulders away from the ears, ribs melted back into the spinal column. So we're not flaring forward, we're melting them back into the spinal column while maintaining the gap under the spine and the headlights pointing down at the floor. From here, you're going to lift the legs up like so, lift the feet up, keep the knees down, and then we're going to open that top knee into this clams level 2 exercise. And as you're doing this, I want you to maintain that gap underneath your trunk and the headlight pointing down. So I don't want to see anybody do this and roll back. We don't want to roll back. We want to maintain that gap underneath our spine and the headlight pointing down at the floor. Shoulders away from the ears. Think about your ribs melting back into your spinal column. Your supporting hand is not gripping for balance, but you're just lightly leaving your fingers down, almost like you got some eggshells underneath your fingertips. Nicely done. Shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck, like you're holding a little peach under the chin. You'll probably notice that your clams won't be super big here, and that's okay. It's because we're getting you to bring the hips down slightly. So you'll find that your range of movement won't be as big as if you were to roll back, and that's absolutely fine as long as we're maintaining that posture here, thinking about the little gap underneath your spine, headlights pointing slightly down towards the floor. Let's do 3 more here, wherever you are, breathing. At your own pace. Check in with your shoulders. Don't let them creep up. Keep them down. And when you're done, you can relax and you can rub out your hip if you like. You might feel it on the underside of your other hip as well. Okay, now we're going to move on to our next exercise. And we're going to start it the same way as the clams by pulling the top hip down to the feet such that you're creating a little gap underneath your trunk. And we're going to keep the headlights neutral this time, facing forward. And we're still thinking about our ribs melting back into our spinal column, shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck, supporting hand only touching the bed by the fingertips. From here, we're going to float the top leg up such that your thighs and your shins are parallel to each other. And then we're going to imagine we're dusting the top of a glass table here, going forward and back across this glass table. And as I'm doing this, I'm maintaining that little gap underneath the spine and the headlights pointing forward. And you'll notice that my shin is parallel to the floor. So my foot is not higher than the knee and my knee is not higher than the foot. But the knee and foot are equal, they're level. The shin is parallel to the floor. Still think about that gap underneath your spine here. Shoulders away from the ears, ribs melted back into the spinal column. Back of the neck nice and long, little peach under the chin. And as you move through this dusting of the glass table, don't let the leg drop down or lift up too high. You want to keep this gap between the thigh the same distance. And as you bring the leg forward, try not to twist your torso back. I know it's easy to do so. So try to hold your trunk position as much as you can. Don't let the ribs flare. Pull them back into the spinal column. You can probably see here that I'm very close to the wall, so I can't actually bring my leg too far back. But that's okay. Wherever you are at home, if you find this movement really tough and you're twisting and moving a lot, then I want you to make the movement smaller. So imagine the glass table is much smaller. So you're not going forward very far and you're not going back very far. The important thing is we're not doing this twisting motion as we dust the glass table. Shoulders away from the ears, light fingertips, long back of the neck, ribs melted back into the spinal column. And we're thinking shin parallel to the floor, the knee and the foot are at the same height, same distance between the thighs. Nicely. Let's do 2 more wherever you are. One more. Remember to keep that gap under your spine. And then we relax the leg, rub out the leg if you like. I'm just going to move forward a tiny bit because I am very close to the wall. And for the next one, I just want to make sure that we got some space. So ideally here, you want a pillow underneath your head. You can have multiple pillows if you like, as long as we're not hurting our neck with this kind of crunching movement. We're going to place our palms together and forward like so, legs together. Now, we're going to think about the hips stacked on top of each other, almost like you got a skewer stick going in from the top hip down to the back hip. From here, we're going to do some arm circles, which looks like this. The top arm is going to circle, and we're going to let the breastbone follow the movement here and coming back. You'll notice that my arm is slightly bent as I come to the wall. And that's because my wall is very close to me right now. But at home, ideally, you want the entire arm to be completely straight as you circle around. And don't forget to bring your head with you. You want to let your eyes follow the movement of your hand here. Nice twist. Make sure the top knee is not sliding off. You want to keep the knees completely stacked on top of each other, and you want to keep the hip stacked as well. So imagine that skewer stick going in through the top of the hip to the bottom hip, and you want to keep that stacked here, twisting just from the trunk here. Shoulders away from the ears. So remember, your arms should be straight as you're circling. The reason mine is bent is because I'm really close to my wall here. But at home, hopefully you've got a bit more room. Keep those knees and hips stacked. Let's do one more here. And then have a rest for a second. Take a moment, get yourself onto your back, and then roll onto the other side. I'm just going to sit up and come to the other side here because I want to keep facing you. But at home, you're welcome to roll onto your back and then onto the other side. Now we're going to repeat the exercises on the side here. So we're going to start by having both of our knees bent, and we're checking our alignment here. We want our feet to be in line with the hip, in line with the shoulders. We don't want the legs too far forward or too far back. You want them to be lined up so that your feet are in line with your hips, in line with your shoulders. Now from here, we're going to think about pulling that top hip down towards the floor, or sorry, towards the feet, such that you've got a little gap under your spine. And then we're going to think about the headlights at the front of the hips pointing slightly down towards the floor. The ribs melted back into the spinal column, shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck, think little peach under the chin. And your supporting hand just touching down by the fingertips, no gripping. From here, we're going to go into our clams level 2. We're going to float the feet off the bed, and then we're going to open the top knee like so, keeping the feet together. And as we do this movement, I want you to check in with yourself. Do you still have that gap underneath your spine? If not, pull that hip down to the feet. Keep that gap underneath your spine. Think about the headlights at the front of your hips pointing slightly down towards the floor. The ribs melted back into your spinal column. Your shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck, little peach underneath the chin. And you're only touching down by fingertips here. So as you're doing this movement, you should be nice and stable. There should be no wobbles. And your headlights should be pointing slightly down towards the floor at all times. Check in with your posture as your shoulder up here. Slide the shoulders away from the ears. Ribs melted back into the spinal column. Make sure you're not holding your breath. And again, with this clamp, you'll notice that your movement is probably a lot smaller than if you were to twist your body like that, because we don't want that twist. We want that gap under your spine and the headlights pointing down slightly at the floor. Good, nicely done. Check in with your neck posture. We often crunch our neck through these side lie positions. Really make sure your neck is nice and long. Good. Let's do 3 more here in your own time. Keep that gap under your spine. Think about the headlights pointing slightly down towards the floor. And when you've done your 3, have a rest for a second. You can rub out your hip if you need. Just going to move back a tiny bit here. Okay. So we're staying in this position. We're going to pull the top hip down to the feet again to create that little gap underneath the spine. Shoulders away from the ears. Long back of the neck, fingertips touching down. From here, we're going to keep the headlights nice and neutral, facing forward this time, but still with the gap underneath our spine, ribs melted back. We're going to float that top leg up into a tabletop position here. You're going to imagine that glass table under that top leg, and you're sliding, you're dusting the top of that glass table. Your shin should be parallel to the floor. We don't want the foot to be higher than the knee or the knee to be higher than the foot. You want the knee and the foot to be completely level here. Make sure you've still got that gap underneath your spine, ribs melted back into the spinal column, long back of the neck, shoulders away, not up here, shoulders away from the ears. And remember, as we're sliding here, you don't want the leg to be coming down here or up here. You want that gap between the thighs to be the same as you're dusting this imaginary glass table. And remember, if this is quite difficult, make that range of movement smaller. So you can even stay here. And it doesn't have to go all the way forward and back. You're welcome to make that movement smaller. You're trying not to do this kind of twisting motion. Make sure your little gap under the spine is still there. No twisting. Light fingertips, shoulders away from the ears. Headlights pointing forward. Try not to let the leg come down like so. Keep it parallel if you can. Let's do 3 more in your own time. Light fingertips. Keep that gap under the spine. 2 more. Shoulders away from the ears. And resting down, you can rub out the hip if you like. I'm just going to move myself a little bit further away from the wall here. And we're going to go into our arm circles again. So arms forward, palms together. You can relax your legs now. You don't need that gap under your spine anymore, but you do want the hips to be stacked and your knees to be stacked, almost like you've got 2 skewer sticks here and you're keeping your legs where they are. Have a pillow under your head or multiple if you like. From here, we're going to circle the arms back. So again, I'm bending my arm here because I'm pretty close to the wall, but hopefully at home, you've got a bit more space to actually extend your arms. And as we're doing this twisting motion, it's nice and gentle. We're not going to You're going to keep your hips and knees stacked. So don't let yourself do this. You don't want to be twisting back like that or having that leg slide off. We want the knees and the hips to be stacked on top of each other as we do this twisting motion. So it's just coming from the trunk here. Keep the hips and knees stacked. Don't be afraid to let your gaze follow your arms. This might help you more actually with that rotation. So again, at home, hopefully your arms are straight and they're not bent like mine. Keep that circling arm straight at all times if you can. Let's do 2 more here. Keep the knees and hips stacked, shoulders away from the ears, long back of the neck. And then rest. From here, you're going to gently take your time and push yourself back up into a seated position. Take your time here, especially if you get dizzy from getting up too quickly. And we're going to return ourselves to sitting at the edge of our seat here. Feet flat on the floor. Don't let them slide too far back. We're going to drop the arms down. We're going to sit up nice and tall. Grow that spine up towards the ceiling. We're going to stack our forearms, just like we did at the beginning with our spine twist, shoulders away from the ears. Imagine this, your shoulders and your arms here making a bit of a rectangle, and you're maintaining that rectangle shape at all times. We're going to inhale to prepare. Exhale to twist the entire rectangle to the corner. And then we return back to the middle. And as we're doing this, we're trying not to let our arms go like this. We want the entire shape, that entire rectangle, to be moving with us here. Hopefully, you've noticed that you can twist a little further than you could at the beginning. You're sitting nice and tall over your sit bones. Try not to slouch or lean to the side. Keep yourself right on top of your sitting bones, almost like you're balancing each vertebrae on top of the other. Again, inhale to prepare. And exhale to twist, leading the movement with your breastbone. Don't forget to take your head. Don't keep your head in the middle. Your upper body moving as a unit. Crown of the head still reaching for the ceiling. Two more. Shoulders away from the ears. Keep your spine stacked on top of your sit bones. Try not to lean back or to the side. And we're going to lower the arms down. We're going to place the hands onto the bed. We're going to scoop up to the side, up and over, and slide our bottom arm out, almost like we're sliding it out to the side towards the wall, and then pulling it back in as light of a weight as you can onto that supporting arm. Again, reach up and over, sliding out to the side. Keep the weight on this hand nice and light, the bottom hand nice and light. So we're not pressing, we're gliding. And then we're coming back to the middle. And again, scooping up and over, gliding down to the side. Keep your sit bone down. Don't let your sit bone lift up as we're sliding to the side here. And then coming back, same thing. Last time, big scoop up and over. Keep both sit bones down, slide. And then coming back in. We're going to do a big scoop down, breathe in. And exhale. And again, breath and scoop. And exhale. Doing opposition here, scooping in. Open the arms out to the side, exhale. This time we're scooping in. Two more. Scooping in. Exhale. Exhale. Ooh, about to sneeze there. And coming. Ooh, about to sneeze there. Coming back in and lower the arms. Good. Thank you for joining us for our Pilates week 2 today. I know the sun was shining in quite brightly, so hopefully you can see everything okay and it wasn't too shadowy on one side. So you can tell with these movements that we're doing, it's quite slow in nature, but we're doing a lot of control and a lot of stability work in this class here. So it's not about how many repetitions you can do, but it's more about how many good repetitions you can do in this class, working on the control. So just like last week, the exercise class today will be uploaded onto our Parkinson Society BC YouTube channel, hopefully in the next week or so. So if you like to practice any of the exercises we did today, you're welcome to visit the Society YouTube channel in about a week's time, and you can follow along again if you like. If you are at home and you're finding the lying position a little bit difficult, make sure you have lots of pillows or cushions around you to just help support your neck and shoulders, especially if you feel like you're a little bit more forward stooped and it's hard for you to lie back. You're welcome to adjust by adding more pillows underneath your shoulders and head to just make that position a bit more comfortable for you. And the more you do these movements, the easier it's going to be, and the easier it's going to get, just because some of these isolation techniques we're doing in the class is not something you tend to do on a daily basis. So keep at it, and I hope to see you next class for week 3. Thank you, everybody, and thank you for your comments in the chat box. Not to worry if you missed last week. We, even though today's exercise class, we had some new exercises, but they are progressions from last week. So you're welcome to review the content from last week's class on the YouTube channel. You can practice some of those more basic techniques if you like. And not to worry if you're a little bit more wobbly from week to week. It's very normal for us to have fluctuations in our abilities and our bodies on a daily basis. So no problem there. Keep working at it, and I will see you next week. Same time, same place for week 3 Pilates. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I hope we have a great rest of your week and a great weekend. Thank you. Bye.